It's New Year's Eve or maybe New Year's Day when you're watching this, and everywhere you look, people are talking about fresh starts, they're talking about new goals, they're talking about vision boards, words of the year, new me. And if you're anything like the women that I work with, the burnt out helpers, the parentified daughters, the old souls who grew up too fast, and the ones who never learned how to stop carrying everyone else's burdens, then you're not feeling inspired. You're feeling dread because you know how this goes, right? You know that in 2 weeks you're going to be behind, and in a month you're going to feel overwhelmed. And by March, you are going to be completely burned out. And by May, you're going to hate yourself because you failed again. And what no one is saying is that the problem isn't about your goals, the problem is your nervous system. So you can't goal set your way out of burnout. Just like you can't vision board your way out of survival mode, and you can't manifest your way out of a dysregulated body. And until you start to understand that, until you stop treating exhaustion like it's a motivation problem and start treating it like a nervous system problem, 2026 is going to feel exactly like 25. And God forbid it feel like 2020, right? So December 2025 probably looked like this for you. You hosted Christmas, you hosted Thanksgiving, you bought all of the gifts, you wrapped them, you shipped them, you managed everyone else's emotions, you managed your children, your partner, your parents, your in-laws, your friends, your other family. You kept the peace when things got tense. You smiled through it, you showed up, you performed joyfully even when you didn't feel it, right? And you made everyone else have a fantastic holiday while quietly wondering when you got to rest. When would it be your turn? And now it's January of 2026, and instead of feeling rested, you feel empty. But instead of honoring that, instead of letting yourself recover, you make goals. And you tell yourself, well, 2026 is going to be different, right? 2026 is going to be the year that I finally get it all together. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to build the business. I'm going to be more present. I'm going to be more productive. I'm going to read more books. I'm going to be more here, right? Be more, do more. And what I need you to hear is that is not inspiration. That is your nervous system stuck in survival mode, telling you that you're not enough right now and you have to earn your worth. It's also telling you that rest is something you get after you prove yourself. So you're not starting 2026 motivated if this is how you're thinking. You're starting it dysregulated. And there are no amount of goals that are going to fix that for you. So why you're actually exhausted, okay? You spent December in hyperarousal, right? Your nervous system was stuck in fight or flight mode the entire holiday season. You're managing people, you're anticipating needs, you're preventing conflict, you're performing emotional labor, and that is not rest. That is survival. And your body is tired, right? It's exhausted. You also never learned how to receive. You give, but when someone offers to help you, you say no. Oh, I've got it, I'm fine, I'll handle it, it's no big deal. Because somewhere along the way, you learned your worth is not tied to usefulness, right? You learned that being needed meant you were loved, and that if you stopped serving, you stopped mattering. And that belief is killing you. You were probably the mature one, the old soul, the responsible one, the peacekeeper. And that was not a compliment. That was a trauma response. You learned to regulate everyone else's emotions before you learned to regulate your own. And you learned to be useful before you just learned to exist, to just be. And so now, decades later, maybe you're a parent, you're a doctor, you're a therapist, you're a pastor, a coach, a teacher, a social worker. So of course you are, right? Helping is all you know. Serving is all you know. And your body's screaming at you to stop because it can't do it anymore. You probably also think that exhaustion is a moral failing. So when you're tired, you're not sitting here thinking, okay, my body's overwhelmed. My nervous system's tired. It's fatigued. You think, oh, I'm lazy. I'm weak. I'm not trying hard enough. So you push harder, right? You make a longer to-do list. You set more goals. You just add more and more. And your body breaks down. So you're not starting 2026 exhausted because you didn't rest enough over the holidays. You're starting 2026 exhausted because your nervous system has not been in a safe place. It has been in survival mode for probably years or maybe even decades. And the cultural pressure for you to start fresh is just adding more stress to an already maxed out system, especially in a season that's not about pushing, it's about rest. The winter season is literally everything in creation is like hibernating, resting, and not sitting here trying to start fresh with all this energy, right? So your body is not broken. It's trying to save you through all of this. But the question is, are you ready? Are you willing? And are you open to listening to it? So let's talk about goals for a minute, because I'm not necessarily anti-goal setting, but I am anti-dysregulated goal setting. So here's what happens when you set your goals from a dysregulated nervous system. January 1st comes along and you say, okay, well, this year I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'm going to start a side business. I'm going to read 50 books. I'm going to meal prep every Sunday. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to journal every day. I'm going to be more present with my kids. I'm going to go to therapy once a week. I'm going to grow my Instagram. I'm going to launch a podcast. And then 2 weeks in, have you done any of it? Maybe 1 to 3%, and you hate yourself for it. And then starts that guilt and shame spiral. Because you didn't fail because you were lazy. You failed because you set goals like someone who's stuck in survival mode. Someone who thinks if I just do enough, if I achieve enough, if I optimize enough, then I will be worthy, right? Then I will feel safe. Then I will be enough. So that, again, that's not goal setting, that's trauma. You also get stuck in productivity. Right? You make a goal, you crush it, you feel good for a little while, maybe even 24 hours, and then you immediately move the goalpost, right? So, okay, that was good, but what if I do more? What if I could do better? Right? Maybe you work out 1 day a week and you're like, oh, I could do 5. Or maybe you post twice a day on social media and you're like, I could do this 3 or 4 times a day, 7 days a week. Like, you're never satisfied, you're never done, you're never enough, because the goal was never actually about the outcome. It was about proving your worth. And your worth cannot be earned. Your worth just is. You start strong, you start really strong and motivated, right? 2 weeks in, you become exhausted. A month in, you're sick. 2 months in, you've probably quit. And then you blame yourself and you're like, I just don't have discipline. I don't have enough motivation. I'm not strong enough. I just don't have what it takes. No, you were running on adrenaline and cortisol. You're running on survival mode fuel and your body ran out. What does it do when it runs out of gas, when there's no gas left in the tank? You cannot sustain goals from a dysregulated state. You can't. It's not possible. So here's what traditional goal setting is not going to account for. It's not going to care about your nervous system capacity. It doesn't account for your trauma responses, for your actual energy reserves. And I'm not talking about the fake ones like caffeine or supplements, or even adrenaline. And it's definitely not going to account for the fact that you might have to heal before you can build. There's also a spiritual piece that people don't talk about. What if the life that you are trying to build through your goals is not the life that God is calling you to? What if you are so busy doing that you cannot hear who you're supposed to be? And all of the exhaustion, all of the burnout, all of your body breaking down, what if that's not necessarily failure? What if that is God forcing you to stop long enough to ask, well, who am I when I'm not performing? Who am I when I'm not producing? Who am I when I'm not proving? So what if 2026 isn't about achieving more for you? What if it's about surrendering the version of you that was built on survival so that you can finally emerge, the real you? So if goal setting from survival mode's not going to work for you, what does? 2026 needs you. You have a purpose, a divinely given purpose. And I'm warning you right now, this is going to feel wrong, and it's going to feel selfish. It's going to feel lazy. It's going to feel indulgent, and it's definitely going to feel ungodly when you do it. And this is how you know it's right, because your nervous system is fighting you on this, okay? 2026 needs you to stop. It doesn't need you to stop forever, but it needs you to stop for right now. So stop adding more, stop optimizing everything, stop pushing so hard, because your body is currently begging you to stop. And I don't mean just go take a bubble bath and then get back to the grind. I mean stop living like your worth is tied to your output. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop performing for people who don't even see you, who don't care, and stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Even if it's just for a day, even if it's for 1 hour, just stop, just pause. 2026 needs you to grieve. You need to grieve the version of yourself that you thought had to earn love. The version that thought rest was weakness. The one that built an entire identity on being needed. And you need to grieve the childhood that you didn't get. The one where you didn't really get to be much of a kid and had to be the family therapist, right? You need to grieve the years that you spent in survival mode thinking that it was service. Because grief is not weakness. Grief is acknowledgement. It's honoring what was lost so that you can reclaim what is left. And you cannot build a new life on top of that unprocessed grief, because that is a weak foundation that is absolutely going to collapse. 2026 needs you to regulate your nervous system. So this is non-negotiable. You cannot heal in the same state that made you sick. You have to teach your body that it's safe to rest, that it's safe to receive, that it's safe to exist. And that's not going to happen through willpower. It's going to happen through nervous system work, through somatic practices, through breath work, through EFT, through vagus nerve regulation, through grounding, movement, co-regulation with a community of safe people. This is all backed by science. Your body is stuck in survival mode because it learned that the world is not safe, that you have to stay vigilant, that letting your guard down meant danger. And now you have to reteach it, you have to reparent it, and that is a very slow and consistent process that involves a lot of gentleness and grace. And it involves a lot of work. But it doesn't mean that you need a bunch of goals. It doesn't mean that you need a bunch of achievements. It means you need nervous system regulation. And 2026 needs you to learn to receive. And this is probably one of the hardest ones. You have to learn to let people help you, to ask for what you need. And you have to learn that being loved is not the same thing as being useful. So start small, because it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel selfish. But let someone buy you a coffee. Ask someone to watch your kids for an hour. Say yes when someone offers to help instead of saying, no, I'm fine, I've got this. And let yourself be seen in your mess. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to just let people see you when you're strong and you've got everything all together. And this is going to feel terrifying, because vulnerability feels like weakness when you are raised to be strong, but it's not weakness, it's courage. And I promise you it's the only way out of this. 2026 needs you to redefine success. So success is not how much you achieve. It's not how many people you help. It's not how productive you are or how little you need. What success looks like is a regulated nervous system, the ability to rest without guilt, boundaries that protect your energy, relationships where you are loved and not just useful to someone, and a body that feels safe. And most importantly, it is a life that does not require you to sacrifice, betray, or give too much of yourself. Everything else is just survival dressed up as ambition. And 2026 needs you to ask the hard question. So was my calling actually God's plan for me, or was it a trauma response? One that I mistook for purpose? that one's going to sting. Because what if the path that you took, the one that you worked so hard for, the degree, the family, the training, the role, what if it was never God's call for you? What if it was about finally formalizing this role that you've played your entire life? The helper, the fixer, the sacrificial lamb and the martyr, the one who saves everyone, the advocate. What if you became a mom, a doctor, a therapist, a pastor, a coach, a social worker, not because God called you to it, but because trauma trained you to find your worth in being needed? And I'm not saying that your work isn't valuable, but I'm asking, is it sustainable for you long term? Does it give you life, or does it suck away all of your energy? Are you serving from a point of overflow, or are you serving from emptiness? Because God does not call you to self-destruction. That's not service. That is sacrifice in the wrong direction. And maybe, just maybe, 2026 is the year that you stop asking, well, what should I do? And you start asking, who am I when I'm not performing a role? So maybe the real calling is simpler than you think. And maybe it's just be loved, be held, exist, be human. And let the doing flow from that. Not from this desperate need to prove that you matter. So that's heavy, I know. But let's get practical for a minute. So what does this look like in real life for you? Instead of setting goals for 2026, I want you to set intentions. And here's the difference. So a goal says, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. An intention says, I'm going to move my body in ways that feel good and help me regulate. A goal would say, hey, I'm going to grow my business to 6 figures, but an intention would say, I'm going to build a business that doesn't require me to abandon myself. A goal would say, hey, I want to be more present with my kids. Intention would say, I'm going to notice when I'm dysregulated and I'm going to choose presence over productivity. So do you see the difference there? Goals are coming from the head. They're coming from achievement, from all of this external validation out here. But intentions are coming from within. They're coming from the body. They're coming from values, from what your soul actually needs, from what feeds it. So here's what I want you to do instead of making resolutions. Firstly, you need to learn to assess your nervous system state. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how exhausted are you? Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? Ask yourself how much of your life feels like a performance versus authentic presence. And then ask, well, how often do you feel safe in your body? And journal that out. Write it down. Be honest. No one else has to see it. We also need to work on identifying your capacity. And this is not the ideal capacity. This is not what you wish you could handle. What can you handle right now? If you're at like a 3 out of 10 energy-wise, you're not going to be able to build a 10 out of 10 life. You've got to meet yourself where you are right now. Choose one nervous system practice, not 10, just one. So maybe that's 5 minutes of breath work in the mornings. Maybe it's one EFT session a day. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk without your phone. Maybe you're going to therapy once a week, or you're going to coaching once a week that's focused on somatic healing. Maybe it's saying no to one single thing a week that drains you. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Maybe it's just, no, I'm not going to answer that text message right now. So just one consistent, non-negotiable. That is your only goal for January. I know that's terrifying, but it's going to help you regulate your nervous system. And in doing so, it's going to change everything else about your life. We also need to work on mindset and reframing failure. So if you don't hit a goal in 26, it's not going to be that you're failing. It's data, it's information. Take that in, right? My body couldn't sustain that. What does that tell me about my capacity? What support do I actually need? Your nervous system's dysregulated, and that is fixable. We also want to find our people, okay? You cannot heal in isolation. You need co-regulation, you need community, you need witnesses, and you need people who get it. So maybe that's a coach, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a therapist, a program, a community, but you cannot do this alone, and you were never meant to do this alone. So my challenge for you for the first week of January, maybe even the whole month, I want you to make 0 new goals. None. No vision boards, no word of the year, no resolutions. I want you to rest, and I want you to observe, and I want you to notice. Notice what your body's telling you. Notice what you're afraid of. Notice what you're avoiding. Notice what you actually want instead of what you think you should want. And notice who you are when you're not performing. And then at the end of January, then you can ask yourself, well, what does 2026 need from me? What am I going to get out of 2026? But you have to do it from a calm, safe, regulated state, not from survival mode. And if you want further support with this, check out the links below. Learn to rest, learn to receive, and learn to let 2026 be the year that you reclaim yourself, not the year that you achieve more. And when you do that and you start to understand God didn't create you to be useful, He created you to be loved, you're going to realize everything that you've built on that foundation of I have to prove that I matter is going to crumble. And it's not because you're failing, but it's because that foundation, everything you built on that was never meant to stand. So don't think 2026 is about building higher. Think of 2026 as you diving deeper, healing those wounds that made you believe that rest is laziness and boundaries are selfish. Okay? Surrendering, not giving up, but letting go of the version of you that was never real, so the real you can finally breathe. So my prayer for you is that 2026 is the year that you stop, that it is the year that you grieve. May it be the year that you regulate and the year that you start to receive. And may it be the year that you start to ask the hard questions and discover that your worth was never tied to your usefulness. So do remember that you are loved right now as you are, exhausted and all, and let that be enough.